How we going, everyone? What a gorgeous day today. I didn't get a lot of time outside, unfortunately. I was doing work inside the house, cleaning up a couple of little spaces. But anyway, I'm out here now, and I want to talk about feeding your garden. And this is something I speak about every month, and I'm going to do it again. And the reason why I do it is not because of sales, not about me pushing product. You can use whatever fertilizer you love using. If you enjoy my videos and you like somebody else's fertilizer, that's fantastic, no problem at all with that. It's about feeding the soil. So as long as you're feeding your soil with good product, you shouldn't have a problem. And my actual discussion about feeding the soil is doing it on a more regular basis. And that's something I've been trialing myself for the last couple of months, 3-4 months. And this is doing it on a monthly basis. Now, a lot of packaging fertilizers, be it all organic or inorganic, they all have an average feeding regime of about 3 months. Even ours have the same thing. Now, probably change our packaging as we move forward, the labeling on it, in the instructions, but putting that aside, my experiences here by feeding on a monthly basis and even more regularly with a liquid feed, and you can make your own weed tea if you like. You can make a manure tea. You can, soak the manure in a bucket with water, then just take some of that after a couple of weeks and dilute it down further with clean water. That's simple to make. It's cheap. You can get a 4-bag or 6-bag dollar bag of manure from the farms, not from a retail store, because think about the pricing structure, especially a $6 bag of manure, and it's packaged properly. I mean, it's got to go through how many different hands. So if you can go to the farm gate and get something that's nice and clean, aged properly, it doesn't have to be aged. It can actually be fresh, straight in the bucket. If you're going to put it on the garden, you need to age it. So as far as options are concerned, you've got a huge array of fertilizers out there, some great ones out there. Ours are great. As you know, I love my product, and for those who use it, have seen some great results. Do it on a monthly basis. Sorry, I just got to fix a little bit of mulch here. I think the wind got in this corner here and just blew it away. And when it comes to feeding, I like just using our superfood. Now I'm feeding these tomatoes as well. These are the big malaccas, a couple of little malaccas in there. And there's a couple of Italians that snuck in there too. They want to be malaccas as well. So I'm just giving them a very light dosage. You can see, look at that. I've got a small handful and I'm throwing it over about half a dozen buckets. I am not putting a tablespoon or a teaspoon's worth in here. Just need a little bit, and I'll tell you somebody else who wants a little bit. Hey, Leia? Hey? Yeah. Do not try that with your family pets, folks. My ones have had a lot of exposure and experience to it, but look, it's not a fertilizer as such for animals, but it's safe to eat. I mean, if dogs get to it, or your cats, I doubt if a cat will, it'll be safe. But obviously, don't let them eat a kilo or two of it. Now, feeding, back to the garden topic, every month, is a great way. And why? Because let's go through the cycles. I mean, I'm going to talk about Lethbridge and the weather we've had here. So we've gone from 34, 36. We had a high humid day as well. Then we got downpoured with heavy rain. So during those hot days, impact sprinklers, hand watering has been going on. We're constantly flushing and hydrating the soil. And if your soil's holding its moisture, that's great, but it becomes waterlogged or soggy. That can be bad for your plants as well. They can go backwards quite quickly. So you want good drainage, and that means all those micronutrients that are in the soil can get washed out because they're soluble. They actually work through it because they're broken down by the microbes, and the plants are ready to take them up when there's moisture in the ground. But when there's too much moisture in the ground consistently, it's like a pot plant. You've got to feed them on a regular basis every 3 months. Even my personal advice on that is take it down to a month if you want to do a granular. And I don't mean big handfuls. You can reduce the quantity that you apply on a regular basis, and all you're doing is stimulating more life, more bacterial, good bacterial life, that is, and the fungi. So altogether we call them microbes. They stimulate, they populate, and they get a little feed on top by giving them something like this. Now, if you give them something inorganic, it bypasses them because they can't digest that. They can't break it down. So they'll end up just letting it go because it's soluble, highly soluble. Plants will take it up straight away and they disconnect with the earth. So that's the problem we have. And that's what's happening in the farmland. So your monoculture world, where you get all your wonderful produce that looks fantastic, by the way, beautiful, delicious, even your onions. We had an experience today. Kids walked into the house and said, "My Lord, what's that smell? That's onions." They must be from the garden because Mum was cooking in the pot there, getting ready to make a bit of a mint sauce. and homegrown cows too, by the way, so it's all organic. They freaked out because we've had a couple of onions from a supermarket. They've turned up on I don't know how in the basket, but they were there. Now, by comparison, you would think the onions of all, vegetables that exist out there are nice and easy to grow, sandy soil, not a lot of work, but yet they are dosed with whatever you can possibly imagine. So when it comes to cooking them, you won't know until you grow one to see the comparison, and that's the truth, bottom line. So even through the smells, even when you're just cutting through an onion fresh, I mean, the house reeked of onion, but it was a beautiful, sweet, sort of spicy, sort of oniony smell, obviously. And the sauce, it's superfood. And if you're one to use synthetic fertilizers, no other way, unbeknown to you that there is a better way in growing plants, your plants will look good, and I'm sure many of you will say, well, they look fantastic. And that's, again, let's relate that back to the supermarket environment. Your fresh produce, they look fantastic, don't they? When you walk in, can you smell anything? All I smell is donuts, cinnamon donuts, when I walk past through that place to go to the Australia Post outlet. That's right, I'm not walking in there, I'm walking past it, and it just comes through the cooling system. Then when I walk into the green produce area or past it, you would think you could smell it. Honestly, you think you could smell it. Now, you probably will in the future for whatever reason will have that cause that to happen. But the point there is that nutritional density food, nutritionally dense food, I should say, it doesn't happen when your plants are grown with inorganic products. So if you're growing using synthetic, and it's purely about vegetables as well for you too, that you love, it'll look good, but I can tell you, it might taste better than what you get from the supermarkets, definitely, but it won't be still anywhere near as good for you when you grow it naturally. And why is that? Because plants don't make minerals, they don't produce, they produce, they photosynthesize and produce some energy, sugars, and they push that down into the soil, and in return they get their minerals, and the minerals are made by what lives in the soil. And if that stuff in the soil is not alive, you may as well grow hydroponically. Now imagine your produce was all grown hydroponically from here on. I mean, I know many of you will sort of tweak or twitch at that, I should say, thinking, oh no, that's all, it's not natural, it's hydroponically indoors, no light. Well, it's almost basically the same thing outdoors. The difference is they're not running through a soil medium that looks like soil. They're sitting in clay pots or clay balls, whatever they grow them in, and they drain and flush, or flush and drain them. So there's a lot of that stuff going on, and probably some of the produce does turn up into your supermarkets like that. So if you want to grow your own, you want to grow it naturally as best you can. And I have steered right away from all insecticides, fungicides, even the stuff that we have online, which are really the safest you can use. I just don't use them. I don't have that problem. I mean, I do have probably more of a weather condition problem, which causes adverse effects like mildew may develop a little bit on it. And again, that can happen to older leaves, not the younger leaves so much. It's a plant that I let it go past its use by date. And when it does that, it starts to break down. So they go through that cycle of growing, and then stopping and seeding and then slowly dying. And it probably doesn't die really quick, but enough for the nasties to get in there. So the plant stops to draw up, it pushes back down. So again, pick your own. If you don't like superfood, that's fine. Use whatever you have, but feed your garden naturally and on a monthly basis. You're going to see a big change in your garden and in the flavour when it comes to eating them. Have a look at this beauty. The pumpkin, we've got some purslane, common purslane, portulaca, which is delicious, folks. If you've got this growing in the garden and no dog's done any urine on it, chop that up in your salad. It's the alternative to lemon juice, and one of the highest, if not the highest, omega-3 content plant. That's what it is. It's a plant of the land, not from the ocean. So it's got the highest content of omega-3 there. So really good for you, and it tastes great. And I think these tomatoes are starting to kick into gear finally. But the eggplants have taken over. These were the ones that were a little bit sickly, but we're going to feed them and just boost their energy. And hopefully we may get a tomato or two, but I like to give them a chance. Feed your garden, folks, every month. That's what I'm doing at the moment. And if you want a liquid feed and you're really keen on doing it, do it every week if you can. Really a light solution, not a heavy dosage. You can do that every fortnight. That's acceptable, and I think that'll be fine. But if you did it weekly, half or quarter strength, and it will be perfect for you, because that's what they do in the growing fields, you know, when it comes to growing plants and selling them to the retail stores. So a monthly feed, you can use our superfood. Black grit I wouldn't do it because it's a soil amendment fertilizer. It's not a fertilizer straight out, folks, so let's get that correct. To apply that with all this sort of stuff, but you can do that every 3 months, because that will basically neutralize your soil if it's very acidic and help the plant take up all those macronutrients. Otherwise they get locked up in the soil. So you'll see a huge change in your plant life. I know some people use it more often than 3 months, but that's the recommended rate on that one there. But with superfood like this, do it on a monthly basis and you can't go wrong. It's available on our website, vasili'sgarden.com. Check out our click and collect outlets. The family's growing, folks. We've got so many of them at the moment and they're doing wonderfully well, being able to bring the products to your doorstep basically, or pretty much close to your doorstep. vasili'sgarden.com, we've got our Christmas sale on as well, from 30 to 80% off everything online. In store or online you can shop. From me, Vasili, Maresi.